In the grand theatre of global politics, few moments capture the attention of the masses like a leader on the brink of humiliation. For Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK Labour Party, the stage has been set, the spotlight glaring, and the audience both expectant and sceptical. As he steps forward, promising a vision of unity and competence, the weight of his words and actions seems heavier than ever. But in the world of politics, where every gesture is scrutinised and every misstep amplified, Starmer's journey has turned into a spectacle that's both riveting and, for some, disheartening. How did a man who once seemed poised to redefine British politics find himself battling not just his opponents, but the shadows of his own decisions? Let's delve deeper into this unfolding drama, where hope collides with reality and ambition teeters on the edge of despair. Keir Starmer entered the political arena with a reputation for diligence and intellect, qualities forged during his tenure as a human rights lawyer and director of public prosecutions. His credentials, on paper, seemed impeccable. Here was a man who could challenge the populist narratives and bring a steady hand to a party still reeling from internal divisions and electoral defeats. Yet, as the saying goes, politics is not a meritocracy, it is a battlefield of perception. While Starmer's resume inspired confidence among some, it also painted a target on his back. His opponents, both within and outside the Labour Party, were quick to seize on every stumble, every awkward moment, every policy reversal. And as the international stage loomed, these vulnerabilities became glaringly obvious. Starmer's recent engagements on the global stage have been marred by a sense of disconnect. While he articulates his vision with clarity and precision, critics argue that his speeches lack the emotional resonance necessary to captivate audiences beyond Westminster. International observers, accustomed to the charismatic theatrics of leaders like Boris Johnson or the pragmatic decisiveness of Rishi Sunak, find Starmer's approach measured but uninspiring. This perception was starkly evident during his latest trip abroad, where his attempts to position himself as a statesman fell flat. The headlines were merciless, with phrases like, "Starmer struggles to make an impact," and "Labour leader's vision fails to resonate," dominating the narrative. For a man who prides himself on preparation and detail, such reviews must sting deeply. Adding to Starmer's woes is the growing sense of unease within his own ranks. The Labour Party, historically a broad church of diverse ideologies, has always grappled with internal tensions. Under Starmer's leadership, these tensions have not only persisted, but, in some cases, intensified. His efforts to distance the party from the Corbyn era, marked by accusations of anti-Semitism and infighting, have alienated a significant portion of the grassroots base. While many applaud his commitment to rooting out extremism and restoring the party's credibility, others view his actions as a betrayal of Labour's core principles. This divide was palpable during his recent speeches, where applause was tepid and murmurs of dissent echoed through the halls. Internationally, Starmer's challenge lies in projecting himself as a credible alternative to the current UK government. His emphasis on restoring Britain's reputation post-Brexit is a laudable goal, but it requires more than rhetoric. The world's perception of the UK has been shaped by years of political turmoil, economic uncertainty, and cultural shifts. For Starmer to be taken seriously, he must articulate a coherent strategy that goes beyond criticizing his predecessors. Unfortunately, his recent attempts to do so have been overshadowed by a series of missteps. From poorly timed statements to contradictory policies, Starmer has struggled to convince international allies that he has the vision and competence to lead. One of the most glaring examples of this struggle was his handling of the recent trade negotiations. Starmer's critique of the current government's approach was sharp and incisive, highlighting the economic pitfalls of rushed deals and lack of foresight. However, when pressed on his own strategy, Starmer's responses were vague and unconvincing. This contrast between his ability to pinpoint problems and his inability to offer solutions has become a recurring theme in his leadership. For global leaders and stakeholders, this ambiguity is unsettling. In a world where decisiveness and clarity are paramount, Starmer's hesitations are viewed as a liability. Back home, the media has not been kind. British tabloids, notorious for their ferocity, have painted Starmer as a leader out of touch with the common man. Stories highlighting his perceived elitism, awkward public appearances, and inability to connect with voters have dominated the news cycle. While some of these criticisms are undoubtedly exaggerated, they feed into a broader narrative of a leader who is competent but uninspiring. For Starmer, who has built his career on meticulous planning and rational discourse, this perception is both frustrating and difficult to shake off. The Labour leader's recent efforts to engage with international leaders have also drawn criticism. While his meetings with foreign dignitaries were intended to showcase his diplomatic acumen, they often left observers underwhelmed. Critics argue that Starmer's focus on policy details, while admirable, fails to address the broader emotional and symbolic aspects of diplomacy. In a world where optics and symbolism play a crucial role, Starmer's pragmatic approach can come across as cold and detached. This was particularly evident during his recent visit to a major international summit, where his interactions with other leaders seemed formal and perfunctory rather than warm and engaging. Starmer's challenges are not limited to his international engagements. Domestically, he faces a growing sense of disillusionment among Labour supporters. Many who once saw him as a beacon of hope now question his ability to lead the party to victory. The recent by-election results, while not disastrous, highlighted the uphill battle Labour faces in reclaiming its traditional strongholds. For a party that prides itself on representing the working class, the loss of key constituencies to the Conservatives and other parties is a bitter pill to swallow. Starmer's attempts to address these concerns have been met with mixed reactions. While his commitment to tackling inequality and promoting social justice resonates with some, others view his policies as too cautious and centrist. The narrative surrounding Keir Starmer's leadership is further complicated by the shadow of his predecessors. Tony Blair's legacy, with its mix of successes and controversies, looms large over the Labour Party. For many, Blair represents the pinnacle of Labour's electoral success, a standard that Starmer is constantly measured against. However, the political landscape has changed dramatically since Blair's time. The rise of social media, the polarization of public opinion, and the aftermath of Brexit have created a new set of challenges for any political leader. For Starmer, navigating these challenges requires not only a clear vision, but also the ability to adapt and innovate. Thus far, his efforts have been met with limited success. As Starmer grapples with these challenges, his detractors have seized the opportunity to undermine his credibility. The Conservative Party, despite its own internal struggles, has been quick to exploit Starmer's vulnerabilities. From targeted campaigns highlighting his perceived weaknesses to strategic policy announcements designed to outmaneuver Labour, the Tories have demonstrated a ruthless determination to maintain their grip on power. For Starmer, countering these attacks requires not only resilience, but also a strategic shift in approach. Whether he can rise to the occasion remains to be seen. In the world of politics, perception often trumps reality. For Keir Starmer, the challenge lies in reshaping the narrative that has come to define his leadership. While his credentials and capabilities are undeniable, his ability to inspire and connect with both domestic and international audiences remains a work in progress. As he faces another round of scrutiny on the global stage, the stakes could not be higher. For a man who has dedicated his life to justice and public service, the prospect of failure is not just a personal blow, but a setback for the vision he represents. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether Starmer can overcome these challenges and reclaim the momentum that once defined his rise. In the ever-changing landscape of global politics, the spotlight is relentless, and for Keir Starmer, the performance is far from over. Keir Starmer, a name that echoes through the halls of British politics, now finds himself walking a perilous tightrope on the world stage. Once heralded as a beacon of hope for the Labour Party, Starmer's journey has been anything but smooth. The headlines buzz with a fresh wave of challenges that seem to highlight a recurring theme: setbacks that cast a shadow over his leadership and his ability to navigate the complex dynamics of modern politics. But what led to this point? Why does it feel like the tide is turning against him? As we delve into the unfolding drama, it's clear that this isn't just a story about political missteps. It's a saga of ambition, scrutiny, and the relentless pressure to prove one's worth in a landscape where even a single miscalculation can lead to catastrophic consequences. Starmer's latest embarrassment on the international stage wasn't just a blip on the radar, it was a glaring spotlight on the vulnerabilities of his leadership. From the outset, his rise to power seemed like a carefully orchestrated maneuver to restore the Labour Party's credibility after years of internal discord and electoral failures. He positioned himself as a leader who could unite a fractured party while presenting a competent alternative to the Conservatives. Yet, as the years unfold, cracks have begun to show in this carefully curated image. Critics argue that his efforts to strike a balance between being a strong opposition leader at home and a respected statesman abroad have often fallen flat, leaving him open to both domestic and international ridicule. The world stage is no place for half measures or uncertain posturing, and Starmer has learned this the hard way. His attempts to project a strong stance on global issues have frequently been met with skepticism, both from his opponents and his allies. Whether it's his approach to foreign policy or his handling of diplomatic challenges, the perception of Starmer as a leader capable of commanding respect on a global scale remains elusive. A recent high-profile event underscored this point, as his interactions with other world leaders seemed strained. lacking the confidence and finesse one might expect from someone vying for the highest office in the UK. The optics were poor, and in politics, perception often trumps reality. One of the most significant criticisms leveled against Starmer is his perceived inability to convey a clear vision for Britain's role in the world. While his domestic policies have faced scrutiny, it's his approach to international relations that has drawn particular ire. Analysts argue that Starmer's rhetoric often feels reactionary rather than visionary, a stark contrast to the leadership style of some of his predecessors. This has created a narrative that Starmer is playing catch-up, reacting to global events rather than shaping them, a dangerous image for any politician looking to establish themselves as a force to be reckoned with on the world stage. Adding to the complexity of Starmer's predicament is the ongoing challenge of managing public perception. The UK's political landscape is as polarised as ever, and every move he makes is dissected, criticised, and amplified by an increasingly vocal and divided electorate. His detractors point to what they see as a pattern of cautious, calculated decisions that lack the boldness needed to inspire confidence. Supporters, on the other hand, argue that his pragmatic approach is precisely what's needed to navigate the turbulent waters of modern politics. But in the arena of public opinion, pragmatism often takes a backseat to charisma, and this is where Starmer seems to struggle. Another layer to Starmer's struggles lies in his party's internal dynamics. While he has worked tirelessly to distance Labour from the controversies of the past, his efforts to unify the party have not always been successful. The ideological divides that plagued Labour during the Corbyn era have not entirely disappeared, and Starmer's attempts to chart a centrist course have alienated some factions within the party. This internal discord not only weakens his position domestically, but also undermines his ability to present a united front on the world stage. Starmer's critics argue that his leadership style lacks the decisiveness and conviction required to navigate the challenges of modern geopolitics. In a world where rapid decision-making and bold action often define successful leadership, Starmer's measured approach can sometimes be perceived as hesitation or indecision. This perception is further exacerbated by a series of high-profile missteps that have given his opponents ample ammunition to question his suitability for leadership. Each setback chips away at his credibility, creating a narrative of a leader struggling to find his footing in an increasingly unforgiving political landscape. Despite these challenges, Starmer's supporters maintain that he is a leader with the potential to rise above the fray. They point to his legal background and his track record of tackling difficult issues as evidence of his capability. Yet, in politics, potential is often overshadowed by perception, and the narrative surrounding Starmer's leadership continues to be dominated by a sense of unfulfilled promise. His inability to effectively counter this narrative has left him vulnerable to criticism, both from within his party and from his opponents. As the drama unfolds, one thing is clear: Starmer's leadership will continue to be tested in the months and years ahead. The challenges he faces are not insurmountable, but they require a level of strategic thinking and bold action that has so far been lacking. Whether he can rise to the occasion and prove his critics wrong remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: his journey will be closely watched by allies and adversaries alike. In the high-stakes world of politics, the line between triumph and humiliation is razor-thin, and Starmer's recent experiences serve as a stark reminder of this reality. Every move he makes is scrutinized, every word he utters dissected, and every decision he takes weighed against the enormous expectations placed upon him. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, but it also offers opportunities for redemption and growth. For Keir Starmer, the question is not just whether he can overcome these obstacles, but whether he can emerge stronger and more determined in the face of adversity.